Force that. Rogers has got an intercept here. He's 50 metres to the try line. The chaser's coming. They won't get him. Matt Rogers scores an intercept try for the Australians.
Welcome to the Blood Bin, Rogers Sports Management's elite athlete podcast. We're pulling no punches here as we go blow for blow with some of the top athletes and up-and-coming athletes in Australia. Welcome to the Blood Bin, a sports podcast for aspiring athletes with expert opinions. And this week we have some experts in their field. We have dual international Matt Rogers joining us. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For those of you who don't know, he has played at the highest level in 2 codes of football for Australia, so knows his stuff. And then we have his business partner. Both of these guys have founded Rogers Sports Management. Craig Clifton, welcome.
Thanks, Chloe. Good to be here.
20 years in the police force and 24 years in the NRL. Combined, they have a lot of experience in sport. So very, very grateful to have you both here today. Now, I wanted to ask, how did you come to meet one another?
Well, I met Craig in my first week, basically, at Cronulla. I rocked up to my pre-season at the end of 1993. The Sharks had been training for a few weeks prior to that. And Craig was one of our trainers and, spent a lot of time keeping us young bucks in line and giving us, the right information to keep us on the straight and narrow and focused on what the goal was. And, we were all playing sort of under 21s at the time, which was President's Cup. There was a heap of us, 17, 18-year-olds. And I've got to say, without, it's easy to get distracted, probably more so today than it was back then. But even back then, as a young man sort of growing up and sort of feeling like you'd made it, but you hadn't quite made it, without someone like Craig in my corner, I don't know where I would have ended up. I was fortunate that, he could sort of, pull the reins a little bit and sort of, keep us on the straight and narrow, so to speak, and focused on what the end goal was. And ultimately that was to play in the NRL. So, I've known Craig since I was 17 years old, which is a long time ago, nearly 30 years ago now. So, it's been a great relationship and, it's been awesome to have Craig in my corner ever since.
It's amazing what Botox can do, really, isn't it?
Well, you keep telling me I need it, so I don't know.
Trust me.
Craig, what was he like when he first came to you?
Oh, they were all cheeky. They were all full of enthusiasm. They all had ability. That 21 side that Matt was a part of and then I was a part of, I think goes down in history as probably one of the most talented under 21 sides I've ever seen. But, they were just young blokes wanting to have a good time, wanting to make it. And some of them did, some of them didn't. But Matt had the ability to, when he was there, to be focused, and he just gave 100% everything he did. That's why he made it, because he just always gave 100%.
What would you say, in your opinion, are other attributes for athletes to focus on to make it, as opposed to the ones that didn't make it that you spoke of?
You've got to stick the path. You've got to sacrifice a lot. There's times where, especially as young blokes, there's parties going on, their mates are putting pressure on them, girlfriends are putting pressure on them. They've got to learn to say no. And they've got to be able to take that focus and put it in the footy. And that's not only to make it, that's the whole career.
What made you decide to become a player manager, Matt?
Just to help young players understand what it takes, I guess, and seeing so much, I've seen over the years talent that should have made it that hasn't, and talent that shouldn't have made it that had. And, I think I understand why. And I just wanted to help kids, understand that. And I guess like Cliffo said, stay the path. I had Craig in my corner back in those early days, helped me along the way. And I feel like there are some good player managers out there that do a good job, and there are others that don't. And, we just wanted to sort of, I guess, change the playing field a little and get in and be more hands-on with our talent and really be a mentor in that space. I know Craig mentioned sacrifice, and for me as a young player, yeah, there was sacrifice, but I never actually saw it as sacrifice. I was so excited about what the end picture looked like. And I want to get that into our clients' heads, I guess, at Rogers Sports Management, I want to really get into the nitty-gritty of what it takes. And rather than look at it as sacrifice, be excited about what you're missing out on, because what you're going to get. And, for me, it was just never a sacrifice for me. Like, yeah, we had a good time along the way and we celebrated the little victories and, we had a great time. But, the thought of playing in the NRL, the thought of playing first grade and then the thought of playing Origin and for Australia, like, it was too big a draw for me not to even, like, yeah, we had a good time, like I said, but it was too big a draw for me not to even think about giving up a party or giving up this because I had to train the next morning. It was just, I wanted to do it. And
that's why you made it, because you did do it.
Yeah, and I think, Craig, like, no one, and I don't want this to come across the wrong way, no one really helped me. Like, I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Like, sure, like, well, actually, in saying that, like, yeah, but there were people that helped me along the way in terms of, like, mentors who steered me in the right direction. But I was willing to take that advice. Like, Craig was one of them, and that advice was invaluable at that time. But I was driven, and to make it at the NRL level, like, it's not something that you'd like. It's not something that you can think, oh, that'd be nice. Like, it just doesn't, like, every young aspiring athlete, Craig. Like,
yeah, it just can't be handed to you. It's not nice. You've got to actually desire it and want it and live it.
And go after it. It's not something you can just go, oh, yeah. Like, I've seen many kids, who'd like to be an NRL player. Like,
it's not enough.
It's not enough. Like, you can't. It's just not enough. And yeah, it's an amazing life. I got to tell you, it is amazing. And playing rugby as well. I mean, they're both amazing lives to live. And when people say, do you miss it? Like, I don't miss the physical nature of the game. Like, I was always the little guy getting bullied, but
you were quick.
Yeah,
you became quick.
And I took a lot of pride in making big guys look silly, like, it was a fun part of the game, but when they got you, it hurt. And I don't miss that. I miss the camaraderie that the game brings. And I struggled a little when I finished with, missing the regiment that the game brings. But I not only do, Craig and I talk often, it's not just about preparing kids for making it. It's about preparing kids that don't. And what does success look like? Do you have to be an NRL superstar to be successful? I hope that the kids we're looking after, as much as they want it, I hope if they don't get there, their life doesn't break down because they didn't make it. Because success comes in different forms, and it doesn't, just because you're not an NRL superstar doesn't mean you're not successful.
Just having a crack is enough, really, isn't
it?
I
mean, look, we want our kids to get as far as humanly possible for them.
Yeah, but sometimes some kids aren't just going to make it, and it's going to be through injury, or it's going to be through circumstance, or it's going to be because something happens in life. But if you're having a career, if you're making Q Cup or State Cup, or if you're playing A grade, or if you're playing to the best of your ability that gets you, and you're still in that environment of sport, that's a good thing.
It's a success for us.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't mean we're not going to push as hard as we can for our clients to make it, and we're going to do everything in our power to help them do that. But, we also are realists. There are 17 teams in the NRL. If you play 5'8", there's 17 guys that get a job a week. 17 guys that get a job a week. They don't have reserves for 5'8s on the bench because they don't need them. There's 17 halfbacks that get a job. There's 17 fullbacks that get a job. That's not many kids that get to fill those spots. It's a privilege to be able to play in that position, and it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of pain along the way. But like I said, it's so worth it. But yeah, we're realists. Not everyone's going to make it, and we're just trying to find the right pathway for kids and help them, I guess, live out a dream. But if that dream to the T doesn't materialise, hopefully we can facilitate a pathway that gives them some joy and some satisfaction.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, Cliffo, you do have a background in juvenile justice.
I do, yep.
Very passionate about helping kids in need. Did that factor into your decision to becoming a player manager?
I did. I think just from my career starting in the or the ARL back then, a lot of young blokes tend to make a couple of silly mistakes in life. And silly mistakes can sometimes lead to bigger mistakes, which lead to bigger mistakes, which lead to serious consequences. So that background in the police and through the Department of Justice, I've really been passionate about trying to stop kids making the little errors, because the little errors are the ones that can just steamroll into big errors. And I've seen it happen in the NRL. I've seen it happen to players. And it normally happens, to be honest, with driver's licences. Players lose their licence, they get pulled over by the police, they're charged, and they continue to drive, then that steamrolls into court cases, and then their lives just fall apart from something so simple as driving without a licence. And that's where their first interaction with the police normally is, on the roads. So and then you get the other matters where people, do silly things, they get in the blues, stuff like that. But that can all be dealt with if players understand one word, no, and to have the ability to walk away. And if they can manage that in life, not only for their football career, just through life, they'll stay out of trouble.
Yeah,
they really will.
Yeah, and we live in it's a tough world, the rugby league, rugby union world. You're surrounded by these alpha males that they're all at one point.
Yep.
They've come from their little area of whether it's country football or up north or wherever, and in that little area they were like this big alpha male. They were the big man in town, on campus. And then they come into an NRL system, and you put them all together, and you got this melting pot of personalities, and nobody wants to look like they're weak, and nobody wants to really give up their. No one wants to talk about their problems, because they've got to be this big tough guy. I think that's changing a little bit, but I feel like we need to be, as agents for young athletes, that sounding board where if they're going through a bit of trauma in their life, or there is an issue, that we can help them, overcome that without making silly errors, because it's not this big thing that happens. It's this little thing that snowballs into another thing, that snowballs into another thing. And then all of a sudden they've got these challenges in their life that they're struggling to overcome. The clubs think, this is just too hard. They get cut, and then all of a sudden their life's in the toilet. We want to be that sounding board that we can sort of, help these kids understand that, just making those little right decisions time after time after time can, grow into or flourish into a successful career. And it mightn't be in rugby league, but we want to give them those tools to make those decisions that, when they finish their rugby league career, or they, perhaps they don't make it in rugby league, then they've set themselves a little bit of a platform to build on.
So what do you say to kids that want to be aspiring athletes, or perhaps even their parents that say, I don't need a player manager?
Well, nobody needs one.
No, they're probably right, but no one needs one. Right?
But, do you want to make your life easier or harder? I mean,
well, it's just an honest sounding board. Look, for us, it's about being honest with the players and having honest conversations. And sometimes you only get that from your parents, right? Because mum and dad have blinkers on, and they think little Johnny or little Joni are the best football players running around with no errors in their game, no faults. Our job as player managers is not only to tell them the honest truth about where they're at with their rugby league, right? And we can do that because we've been involved in the game for so long, is to have honest conversations, and this is what you need to do, this is where you need to be. This is our advice as to why you need to do it. This is the club we think you should go to because of the roster and what your position is. It's not always about the money. Everyone wants to get paid top dollar, but I can guarantee you, I've seen it over the years, and Matt's seen it as well.
Don't chase money.
Don't chase money because it can destroy your career.
Yeah. You got to chase the right opportunity.
Right opportunity with the right club, with the right players, with the right coach that suits you.
Yeah.
And it's just more than a check. And that's what some kids get, contract on the mat thrown in front of them, and they sign it. And it's the worst decision they've ever made in the end. But at the time, they think it was winning lotto.
Yeah, I think nobody needs a manager. You can do it on your own. But do you? I mean, I had a manager for the first half of my career. I didn't have a manager for the back end of my career. I did it myself. It was pretty tedious and it was tough, and I did miss out on a lot of stuff because of that. Probably my exit from the game was a little more tumultuous than I would have liked because I didn't have an agent to help me out of the game into other stuff. But at the end of the day, and this is what I sort of try to explain to people, NRL clubs and Q Cup clubs, their job is to build a roster of players and to do it as cheaply as possible. They want to get you for as cheap as possible. And what NRL clubs do, and it's business, is they want to leverage a young player's excitement against them. So I want to get them as cheap as possible. It's like, you got an NRL contract. You don't need a manager. We'll look after you. And here's a 4-year deal for no money, but you're with us, so you don't need a manager. You don't need a manager now. It's like some of the deals are a little scary that I see young players sign nowadays. Locking kids up for a long period of time with no real money involved and just opportunity, which I get, and it is exciting to get that opportunity. I mean, my first contract, I must say, wasn't the most lucrative, and I wanted the opportunity, but it wasn't a 4-year deal; it was a 1-year deal, and I backed myself. I said, I know I can go down there, and I know I can do what I need to do to make it. Fortunately, after an 8-month period at the club, they extended and upgraded me, and life rolled on. But when you're 15 or 16, and clubs are putting 3 and 4 year deals in front of you, it looks fantastic. You're there for 3 or 4 years. You can develop. But what if the coaches and you don't fit? What if the system isn't right for you? Well, there's a whole raft of things that you need to look at when you sign deals. It's not just about an opportunity, because if you can play, there's not going to be, if you're good enough, there's going to be more than one person, wanting that signature. And, I just like to sort of make people very aware that, if you're good enough, there's going to be opportunity.
I feel like at that level as well, like you just want to concentrate on playing footy, like leave the other hard stuff to people that have a wealth of experience, like Rogers Sports Management.
Our players say we take the headaches away from them.
Exactly.
So that's
You're the
job.
Panadol.
We'll deal with the rubbish. You play footy.
Yeah.
Cancel the noise out. And that's and in this day and age, like far out, I mean, with social media and, you're hearing stories about kids and, back when I started, I don't want to use the old back in my day, nobody talked about contracts. Like
you didn't know what other people were on.
If you talked about it, you could get your contract ripped up.
Wow.
Like it was that full on. Like nobody talked about what other play. But nowadays, it's like people, he's making this and he's getting this, and you hear what he got, and it's like, oh my God, like it's it's frightening. But that's the way it is, and that sort of noise can distract players. Jealousy can be a bad thing. It can get in the way of the way you perform, and I'm better than him. Why is he getting that and I'm not getting this? It's just like the money will come when the time's right. You just worry about playing football and playing well and make yourself undeniable. That's
absolutely
what you need to do. When I was playing, like I didn't care what anybody else was making. I didn't care what anybody was making. I didn't care how good they were, how bad they were, what people were saying, what they weren't saying. What I cared about was how hard I could work, how well I could play. And then I knew that when it was my turn to sit at the negotiating table, I'd get paid what I deserved.
Proof was in the pudding.
And every time, it worked out because I was focused on the right things. I wasn't focused on others. I was focused on me.
You say that. I remember, though, when you used to play back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yes.
There were some attributes that you held that I don't think a lot of people know about in terms of being an elite athlete. One thing in particular, in playing in a team that you were fabulous with, was mediating between these different alpha personalities. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that and how that helped you become a better player, a better team player?
Well, I think, to be a great player, you've got to make the people around you better. Good players are good players, but great players make people around them better. And if you're not connected and in tune with the people around you, it's going to be hard to make them better, to know what they need in their game, to know what they want, that sort of stuff. But the locker room is a pretty important place. If there's angst within that locker room, if it's not connected, and there are, look, there can be some prima donnas in the game, that a little bit more about themselves and the team, and what. And I just tried to break that down as best as I could amongst in every team that I played in, and just be friendly to everyone. Connect the dots really, and that's going to help the team play better.
It's not about being a show-off on the field and being the one that's doing all the work necessarily.
No, and look, don't get me wrong. I didn't mind showing off on the field and doing and having a good time, and layering up a little bit and calling out guys in the opposition, and all that sort of stuff. But you got to be like, nothing matters unless you are getting it right on the field.
Yeah, and you got to actually earn the right to do that too.
Yeah.
Matt earned the right to have a go at someone. Right? And there's a hierarchy in rugby league. There is.
Politics.
There's a hierarchy in the fact that there's players in the game you respect, other players should not have a crack at, right? Matt was one. UT was one. Les Davidson was one.
Well, Les Davidson, everyone was scared to talk to him.
Well, but they earn it through not just from what they did on the field, what they did off the field, their representative football. So there's a hierarchy status in the game, right? And players got to earn the right to have a crack at someone, because if you had a crack at Les, you know what happened.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, you used to be able to throw punches at the field. Not that I agreed with it, but I definitely didn't agree with it being the size that I was. I ran.
Bring back the biff, I say. Bring it back. We miss it.
I think there's a lot of chirping that goes on a football field now that would not have happened 20 years ago.
No way in the world.
That just wouldn't have happened.
Especially from halfbacks.
The way that there's always been cheeky halfbacks, but they generally got a really, really nasty front row that they could run behind when they did chirp up. Nowadays, it just doesn't matter. But, look, it's a different game. I think the product's good. I mean, personally, I think the game's great. It's entertaining. I mean, the State of Origin this year to date has been fantastic. The level of NRL, I think we're a little bit – there's a little bit too much of a disparity at the moment between the top teams and the bottom teams. But, hopefully, over time – recruitment and salary cap sort of irons that out a little bit. But look, it's an exciting time for the game. We're about to expand. Do I agree with it? I don't know. I'm probably a little bit more on the sense that I thought we needed to shrink the game, make it more elite, expanding it. I'm not sure whether there is enough top quality players to play at the level that they need to play at to make it a strong competition across the board. But I could be wrong.
Well, now, Cliff, I wanted to ask you, you went to St George, you're under Nathan Brown.
Yep.
You were in a successful premiership campaign, I believe.
2010, the year he retired, yeah.
I believe, yeah.
Not with Nathan Brown, though.
Not with Nathan Brown, but eventually you got there.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you saw in that team that helped them to get to that premiership level?
St George at that time, they were building. Even under Brownie, they were building. There was a group of players there that really liked each other. That were quality footballers across the park, and there was no big heads. So as a team, as
that
a
was
group,
big, by the way, big heads.
Big heads. As a group of players, they were just good blokes. Blokes you want to have a beer with, blokes you enjoyed their company. They all enjoyed each other's company, and they all could play football. And they were just a great team. So you can have a group of great individual players, but a great
which they
team.
had as well, mind you. I mean, their two centres were Gasnier and Cooper. Two of the best centres still played.
We had Ferraris out in the centres, get the ball to the boys, they'd score. That was it. But the forward pack was great. With Dean Young leading in that forward pack, it was just a great bunch of blokes, and that's why we actually won the premiership. It was just because at that time. We had no injuries. We had a great team, great players, great coach, great staff, great administrators.
And all bought
into what Wayne brought to the club. Yeah. Like saying that Brownie had a great team as well. He's a great coach. Same with Steve Price, Paul McGregor. But at that time, in that place, it was just the right time for the club to win the premiership.
I think what a lot of people don't realise is it's more than what goes on the field. Yeah. It's more than that. It's the coaching staff, it's the trainers, it's the administrators, it's everyone buying into this one goal. It is so much more than just, we've got a good roster, we've got good players. Because if they don't get on with the trainers, if they don't like the assistant coach, if if the CEO's got his head in the dressing room too often, barking stuff, it's like there is a whole raft of things that come together to create a successful outfit. I never won a premiership. Got close a couple of times, very close, in rugby league and rugby union. But when you're a part of something that's pretty special like that. I feel like I was a part of it. We just didn't quite get that final sort of hurdle, winning the final game. But it's an amazing feeling. And I've also been a part of organisations at times when it wasn't like that. And it's a very, very different feeling.
Well, I remember you were telling me, obviously we just had State of Origin and good on you, New South Wales.
That was just game 2.
That was game 2. I don't know when you'll be listening to this, so it may have changed by the time this goes to air. But
I'm fearing game 3. I'm fearing game 3.
You were telling me when you played for Queensland, like even the bus driver was considered a part of the team, and I believe he only just retired a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're in that environment, it's like you're all in. There is not a person that is affiliated with that team down to the bus driver that isn't all in, that isn't in the meetings, that doesn't know what this is all about. And it's a very, very special place to be in that Queensland environment. And yeah, look, New South Wales, they have their own environment. I've never been a part of it, so I don't know and I can't speak of it. But what I will say is Queensland have something about them. I mean, there is, years of being the oppressed rugby league state that they lean on. It's like, up until 1980, Queenslanders that went to New South Wales had to play for New South Wales, my dad being one of them. And they would come back and they'd flog Queensland. And when it all changed, Queensland, they lent on that, being that oppressed rugby league state that was just beaten up year after year. They just had enough. And they still look back onto those times, and there's a spirit within that Queensland team that is very unique. And, New South Wales have spirit, but it can't be that spirit because they were never the oppressed state. They were always the big dogs with all the money and all the players and to go up and just kick Queensland's butt, But, it's a special thing to be part of. And when you got guys like, when I started, Chris Close was the manager and
Choppy
and, one of the great Queenslanders, to be a part of that, it's pretty special.
You mentioned earlier, Matt, about mentors. What are some of the greatest mentors you've had and what have they given to you in terms of becoming an elite athlete?
Well, in my early days, I started at Cronulla. I remember my first training session out on the sandhills. Andrew Eddinghausen, who was the pin-up boy and like a god in rugby league, he was the centre of Cronulla and I was sort of came down there to play 5'8", so I was thinking I'm going to be passing the ball to this bloke. I've got to get to know him. And I sort of just, after our first session, coming back from the sandhills back to the car park at Green Hills, if anybody knows it, it's sort of like a bit of a...
They're tough sandhills.
Bit of a trot. Anyway, I just got under his wing and just started asking him questions and I became like his shadow. I really did. I thought this guy's got everything that I want. He's where I need to be and I've got to understand it. And it was invaluable. Like I still to this day remember things that he told me that I use, things about timing and things about money and, in terms of endorsement deals and stuff, the things that he taught me over that 5-year period that we played together. He was the man. Like there was no bigger guy in rugby league in the early 90s, mid-90s and ET. And it was just amazing, his work ethic, like I just remember him saying to me when my career started to take off and I was playing Origin and playing for Australia and him just saying to me, doesn't matter what happens off the field unless it's happening on the field. Like you get all these offers you're getting, for boot deals and TV stuff. And he goes, mate, if it starts to affect your footy, the first people that are going to come at you is all the press that are loving you at the moment. And he was so true. He was so right, and I just remember like him telling me, one thing that I remember him telling me, he goes, mate, nothing's for nothing. If somebody wants to give you something, take a shirt. They want something. They want something in return. And it's true. I mean, no one gives you something for free. It's like they want something from it. They mightn't say straight up, but there's something around the corner. And I've always, to me, I always feel like now, like I don't take anything unless I know in my head I can deliver something of more value than what I get. And everybody wants an endorsement deal. But that comes with pressure. And
a price.
And a price, it comes with pressure. You got to deliver. You got to deliver on that. And I was grateful to have him. The boys used to give me a bit of a hard time about it too. I got to say, like the boys used to rib me a bit. It's like, oh, you're ET's pet. But I wanted to learn. I didn't want to.
But it's an important point. If you want to get success in any area, find someone that has had that success and listen to what they say and do what they say, basically.
Exactly.
Pick their brains.
It's not logical.
They're smarter than us. There's someone smarter than you. Pick their brains. Someone more experienced. Pick their brains.
Well, one thing that I'll say to any young athlete listening to this, like if you are worried about your teammates giving you a hard time or giving you a little ribbing about stuff, then you're in the wrong game.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen. And if you are going to be dictated to by that, you are not going to succeed. You won't. You will not succeed in the game. Because, like I said, we're in this alpha male society where people start to get ahead and people start to get a little bit narky about it. It's going to happen. Not everybody's got the same mentality as you. Not everybody's in that space. And they're going to get a little bit dirty on you. And they're going to start to give you a little bit of a hard time about it. If you can't handle it, then stop, because you're not going to make it. Simple as that. It's a hard world, and success is hard. Success isn't handed to anybody.
Yeah.
You've got to prepare to do the things that others won't. And if you can't handle a little bit of ribbing about it, or a little bit of you got to drive the bus. If somebody else is driving the bus and you're just sitting on it, sorry, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, and in the world that we live in now, with these young people having to deal with social media every day, it's very different to obviously when you were playing and when you were working in the NRL, Craig.
Keep your social media private.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I can say. Block everyone. And if you want to have a sporting social media account to show your sporting ability, do that. The world doesn't want to see what you ate for dinner.
Yeah.
Right? No one cares. Right?
No, they don't.
We really don't care. Right? So,
and you know what? And I will say this, and again, to any young athlete out there trying to make it, like the people that are in the coaching and administrating world now are my age. They're the people I played with, the people I ran around. They don't care. It actually annoys them.
Yep.
If you're more focused on social media and what you look like, on your screen saver or your, whatever. I don't even know what you're doing with it nowadays, but TikToks or
new pair of shoes.
If that's more important to you, or it seems more important to you than what you've got to do on the training paddock or what you got to do in recovery or all that sort of stuff, you're not going to have a win with the coach on that one.
No.
Yeah. Having said that, it is important, obviously, I think, in terms of marketing, to have an athlete page, as Craig said, being
Absolutely.
Rogers Sports Management's media liaison. I do agree with that.
And I have a social media page. I mean, I'm not playing at a high level anymore, and I hate it. I don't post very much on it. I follow like 3 people. Like I think you know what I think social media has become? It's become like the Midas touch. Like it was so good in the beginning, everybody got it, and now it's like everything, like the Midas touch, like everything turns to gold. You can't eat gold, So it's been so good, and it's connected everybody, but it's become bad. Now it's become too much of a distraction for people, and it's not good for your mental health.
Cause harm to people.
Yeah.
People get bullied on it.
Or comparing.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, comparison is the mother of all stuff ups.
It's a highlight reel. It's not reality. Yeah. That's for sure.
Keep it private.
Yeah, I'm no psychologist, but I've been on, obviously been on some reality TV shows. I've been an athlete. It can be fun when it's fun, and it can be pretty horrific when it's not. And I've been on both sides of it, and it knocked me around a bit, I've got to say. So. It's all well and good to be out there and be in the spotlight and all that sort of stuff, but it can knock you around.
I think if you look at your screen time and it exceeds the time that you've spent training, then you've got a problem.
You're in trouble.
You've got a real problem.
You're on the bench.
You're on the bench this weekend. Yeah, awesome. It's been so great.
Imagine the coaches like, righto boys, I want your phones up here. I want to see your screen time.
That
could be a good test actually for our clients.
Freddie takes the phones often at Origin, so.
Oh mate, and you know what that would do? Like, and this is it's a silly comparison, right? I did Survivor, and no phones in Survivor, the TV show.
The Godfather.
I spent a month in there, no phones, just with people
talking.
the level of conversation, I actually got to know people properly, and create friendships that I know will last a lifetime because there was nothing based on it other than you're talking to people.
On a conversation.
I mean, some of them lied to me, obviously,
a lot.
but no,
Obviously.
it's important to limit that time.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's been fantastic chatting to you and getting to know more about your backgrounds.
Thanks,
and
Chloe.
why it is that, it's just cemented to me why you guys are so fantastic to be in these roles as player managers for Rogers Sports Management. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Blood Bin for Rogers Sports Management. Make sure to like, subscribe and find us on all the social media channels. Just search for Rogers Sports Management on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. We're also on TikTok. And we out.